What's up, everyone? It's Sam here with OC Foil, and you joined me down in sunny San Diego for today's video. In today's video, we are going to ride every single Fliteboard on the market that is available for 2026. We're going to jump on the Flite Air, we're going to jump on the Fliteboard, we're going to ride the Race, we're going to ride the Ultra L2, and we're going to ride a soft top Pro with, lastly, the Scooter. So if you're interested in potentially buying a Fliteboard, you own a Fliteboard, you have friends that might want to buy one, this video is going to be for you. We're going to go out into the water, we're going to do a little bit of planing, do a little bit of riding, tell you why you should buy it, who the board's going to be good for, and yeah, have a little bit of fun. So if that interests you, make sure you stick around to the end of the video.
All right, so we are going to start with the Fliteboard this morning. We're just going to do a quick how to carry your board into the water. This is the easiest way you'll be able to carry your board into the water. The carts, all that other stuff, they work, but it's one extra thing you have to take down to the beach, one extra thing you got to put in the car, one extra thing you got to clean. So what we like to do is we use the nose of the board. So if you're not on the grass, you're going to put a pad down, and then you're just going to watch. So you tip the board on the nose, put it on your shoulder. Your hand is going to be underneath right here, so it's not digging in. As soon as you get down to the water's edge, drop it down, we'll flip it over, and we'll push it out. So without further ado, I'm just going to tilt the board on the nose, just like so. A little awkward with the camera, but here we go, we'll make it work. All right. Now it's just sitting comfortably, resting on my shoulder. Fairly easy. No cart, no wheels, no extra thing you got to deal with once you get down. And then what I like to do is I always use the nose of the board when you're dropping the board down. So just drop the nose of the board down and then just gently place foil down like so. A little bit easier with two hands, but you get the idea. So before we start, I should probably note I'm 165 pounds and I've been doing this for 7 years. So I'm sure I make some of it look a little easier than it probably is. However, if you watch these videos and even see how I pop up and you're struggling or you want some tips, this is probably going to be another good video to watch. So we are on the Fliteboard Icon right now. This board has 100 liters of volume, so it's got the most volume as far as our hard boards go. The Air has more, and so does the Scooter, but this is going to be the most volume hard board that Flite has to offer. As you can see, I'm sitting comfortably on the board out here on the bay, no problem sinking the nose or anything. It's going to be really easy to get to plane, and it feels pretty comfortable under your feet once you get up and going.
All right, so here we are getting to our feet very easily on the icon board. I'm doing a voiceover here because the audio and the wind was unfortunately a little bit too aggressive. However, the icon, again, very easy to get to your feet and actually surprisingly very maneuverable given the size of the board. You'll see here that I'm going to start to turn and carve, no problem at all. The biggest thing that you'll notice is that the swing weight of the board itself is probably the biggest hindrance when it comes to the icon. However, again, getting to your feet is very easy. We've got that volume to help you get up to your feet. And you'll see here that again, look, very easy to start carving, no problem at all. Nearly lost it there because I hit some seaweed, but again, you can roll the board, no problem at all with the Flow 1100. Board's going to be very easy to get into the water because of the handles. And yeah, it's a great board for families. If you're headed to the lake for a weekend or you're gonna have guests out on the boat, you haven't got to worry about them trying to get up on something like the Flite Pro or the Race. You know that they're pretty much going to be able to get going on the Icon board. Kind of the perfect two-board quiver. You get something that's a little more agile like the Pro, and then I would suggest, buying something like the Icon because it's such a versatile board.
Next up, we've got the Flite Air Pro in Yuzu. Now, this is another fairly easy board. However, you're coming down in size. This is 5'2". You've got 80 liters of volume. But, you know, it's a little bit easier than something like a Hard Pro because you've got more volume. And, yeah, it just floats a little bit easier as well. So as soon as I get out there, you'll see why. We'll do a little plane test. Again, fairly buoyant, fairly easy to sit on. Rocks around a little bit more because I've just dropped down 20 liters of volume. But, you know, I'm not sinking the nose or anything. Fairly comfortable. So without further ado, let's get this bad boy planing on the board. Keep the weight up on the nose. Do a little shuffle, shimmy. Build the speed. Again, fairly easy to get the board up and going. You will note as soon as you go from a big board like the Icon to something like an Air Pro that the swing weight feels drastically reduced. You know, you've got less board in front of you, so it's easier to maneuver, easier to control. Ah, I got some jellyfish out here this morning. Whoa, hope I hit one of those. Yeah, nice and easy. So, you're going to be able to carve this board very well, fairly easy. I would say this board is good for flat. If you're in the ocean, it's going to be a lot easier for you to catch a rail. And as soon as you catch a rail with the airs, because they have more surface area, they stick to the surface a lot more than something like a hardboard. The hardboards skip off the surface a lot easier. That said, you know, the board is super durable because it's inflatable. You can smash it up against your boat, drop it in the back of your truck bed. You haven't got to worry about dinging your board. And that's a really big selling point for the Air. You know, a lot of the other boards, they look beautiful. You know, not to say this doesn't look beautiful, but you want to protect it. This, you can just put it in the boat, put it in the truck. It's very worry and hassle free. You can still turn and carve. No problem at all. In fact, it feels really good underneath your feet. We have the Fliteboard Pro. Now, this is the Saltbush soft top version. It has 67 liters of volume, is 5.0 in length, and is the board I recommend most people buy from the get-go. If you can ride a Fliteboard within your first 30 minutes, the Fliteboard Pro is probably the way to go for your quiver. You know, it's a little more challenging to get going in the beginning, but it's not as difficult as something like an Ultra. That said, you can still surf waves with it. It's a super fun board. I teach on a Pro. I've probably logged 60% of my hours on a Pro. And yeah, it's just a board everyone seems to love. Everyone seems to be able to figure it out. And yeah, it's a great board offered by Flite. So without further ado, let's take it for a spin. Okay, so as you can see, it's a little less buoyant. You drop down to 67 liters of volume. Suddenly things get a little bit more kind of squirrely underneath your feet. That said, you start with the nose a little bit higher out of the water just so the Bluetooth connection stays stable. And you can still sit on it fairly comfortably. You know, I know it's flat right now, but I'm not having a hard time bouncing on the board. You know, it's fairly easy to get planing as well once you kind of have the technique of getting that front foot underneath your foot first and then towards the front of the deck pad. You know, it's fairly straightforward. Really good in the waves, and it's probably an all-round just perfect board if you're looking for your first board. So without further ado, let's get this planing. So we're on the controller again. Nose kind of comes up a little bit. And then again, very easy to get planing. And this is the board I spent hours on a Fliteboard Pro. It just feels so good underneath your feet. You can turn, you can carve, you can catch weight. I mean, you can do everything on a Fliteboard Pro. Next up, we have the Flite Race. Now, this board is probably the most highly anticipated board for 2026. The hype around it has been pretty staggering, to be honest with you. It looks unbelievable, especially with this beautiful red carbon weave underneath. You've got the kind of faded black on the side. Oh, it just looks so good. And then really narrow, a lot thinner than something like your Flight Pro. It's even skinnier than an Ultra L3. This board has 58 liters of volume and is 4'10" and sits right between your Pro and your Ultra. So it's actually very easy to get up on plane. If you can do it on a Pro, but you struggled on an Ultra, you have to give the Flite Race a try. Because it's nice and narrow, it actually feels a lot shorter than it is. And then you don't catch any rails because of how narrow it is. As soon as you, I mean, you have to lean so far over to catch a rail. And that's kind of what it's intended for, racing, taking tight turns, not catching that rail. Yeah, it's an epic board. We love it. A lot of people who have demoed it so far are really digging it. So without further ado, let's take this one for a spin. People ask, they say, why should I get the Race over something like the L3? Well, they're both great boards, but if you're someone who wants to put an Explore flight cell in a board, well, the Race is going to be that option for you. The L3 doesn't take an Explorer, it takes a Sport or a Nano flight cell. And, if you're someone who wants to carve really tight turns, have, long runs with the Explorer battery, well, then you're going to have to get the Race. But, if you're someone who's like, aiming to get into the surf, wants a really light setup, then the L3 is probably the way to go. They're both great boards. I'd say the Race is a little bit easier to get up and plane just because it has more volume. The L3 is going to be a little bit more challenging. You're going to have a reduced swing weight with the L3. Not that noticeable over something like the Race. Both great boards. Like could suggest something between the two. Try before you buy. But if this video has done enough for you and I've convinced you one way or another, then I hope that helps.
Here we are doing another voiceover because unfortunately the camera audio was garbage, but nonetheless, what I'm going to do and talk about here is getting the board going. So I like to pull the trigger about 70% of the way in just to get my momentum going, and then that way it allows me to shuffle my weight forward. As soon as I get my weight forward here, what I like to do is keep my weight over the nose, pop my front foot up, and then as soon as you get going, you have enough speed to get up on foil. What I'm saying here is once you get that board going, it just feels fantastic underneath your feet. The narrowness allows you to turn really tight without touching down. And that's, what the Race is designed for. It's designed for carving at high speeds, getting that board to tilt over at some crazy angles. And yeah, it just feels fantastic because of the narrowness. A lot of people have asked me how it's going to feel in surf and how does it ride, and honestly, I think it's going to be great. It's only 2 pounds heavier than the Ultra L3, and if you're someone who's heavier, getting up on the Ultra when it's choppy is very difficult. So having that added volume and added length is going to allow you to get going, pop up, and be able to catch waves. It's only a little bit heavier. Pumping wise, it's going to feel very similar to the L3. And yeah, it's going to allow you to put a Explore battery in the compartment as well over something like the L3. Overall, the race board looks fantastic, feels fantastic, and is something I'm looking forward to spending some more time on throughout the rest of 2026.
For our last hardboard for the video, we're going to be riding the Ultra L2. Now, this is the slightly older version of the Ultra L lineup. We've obviously now got the Ultra L3. Ultra L3, you can find out those details on my other video, but basically, last box a little bit further forward, you've got a kick pad and some orange lettering. The L2, it is the same weight. We still got the beautiful ultramarine color, and it's really going to be your surf-focused, inspired board. This board has 49 liters of volume and is full. So it's quite significantly smaller than the Race. It's going to be a little harder to get up and going, but if you're someone who wants to get in the surf, have the lightest setup possible, the Ultra L2 or 3 is going to be the board for you. So without further ado, let's take this out for a spin.
So let's talk a little bit about the Ultra L3 and getting it going. So this is the smallest board in the Fliteboard lineup, which means it's going to be fairly challenging to get the board going if you're a heavier rider. Not only is it going to be fairly challenging to get it going, if you're someone who rides out in the ocean where there's some wind swell or there's some chop, that is going to add some difficulty to you getting to your feet. That said, with a little bit of technique, a bigger wing, and understanding how to place your feet underneath your body, the Ultra L3 can be ridden, by guys who are 6 foot plus, 220 pounds. But the technique has to be down to get to your feet. This board is really designed for surfing or if you want the lightest setup possible. Here you'll see I'm getting it planing. I'm really keeping my nose over the front. I shuffle forward onto my knees while keeping my elbows on the nose, getting that front foot there forward, and boom, straight to my feet. What you'll notice is right from the get-go, because the board is so small, you don't have any swing weight underneath you, and it just throws around from side to side because of how light it is. I've got the sport battery in this board, and it's very easy to get your wingtips out. It's so fun to carve. And it's phenomenal in the surf because the board is just so light. You can easily connect waves, you can pump it, you can carve, you can turn. It's truly a fantastic board from Flite. And I think a lot of it is down to the fact because of how light it is. Going back to the pop-up, if you're someone who's a little bit bigger and is struggling to get going on an Ultra, I think, that's when you consider getting something like the race. It still has, very similar characteristics with the weight and kind of how it feels underneath your feet. You've just got that little bit of extra volume in the nose to help getting you up. And again, you can still carve it very well. It's still nice and light, but it won't be as light as the Ultra L3, which you can see here. I'm just throwing it around very easily. Compared to something like the Fliteboard in the beginning of the video or the Pro, it just rolls over so easily. So yeah, definitely a huge fan of the L3.
In today's video, what we're going to do is we're just going to surf the board across the surface. I should note, the scooter pairs with an 1800, 500, and a short mast that makes it very safe. I'm not using that right now. I've got my 1100 flow on my 245, and I just got a Defiant. It is super squirrely. So for today's video, I'm just going to show you kind of how easy it is to get the board going on the surface without actually getting it to foil. But again, it's very easy. You're just going to keep your weight forward, build your speed by using your other hand, push over the handlebars, and it's a very pleasant, enjoyable, easy experience. And something I think, a lot of kids will have fun on it, a lot of family. You can even put 2, 3 people on it. You put myself, if I had a kid, put the kid on the front, you could probably bring the dog as well. It's easy. It really is easy. Super safe, fully inflatable, and yeah, another great board from Flite. Woo! I should note as well, it's just a nice board to hang out on. You can kind of chill. There's no rush to get it back to the beach. It's very enjoyable. It's very pleasant. If you're waiting for the crew on the back of the boat to get ready, or your guests on the beach to help you get in or whatever, you just sit here. It's super easy, nice and enjoyable because of that 237 liters of volume.
Well, that was a super fun morning riding every Fliteboard that they offer in the 2026 lineup back to back. That's not something I've actually done before. If you like these videos, please share, like, and subscribe. It helps us tremendously. If you're looking to purchase a Fliteboard, you can contact me directly, sam@ocfoil.com. I'll link my phone number as well where you can reach me at. And yeah, as always, happy Fliteboarding.